Good morning, everyone. Whether the Unitarian Church of Evanston is your spiritual home, or you are seeking comfort and connection in uncertain times, we are grateful you are with us. We are an inclusive and welcoming community seeking truth and love and striving to nurture the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us matters and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. Together, let us remember our oneness, our kinship with one another, and may we hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention. There are many links of connection in the comments section, including credits for the readings, to virtual religious education, for donations, and to be added to our newsletter email list. And now, get your chalices ready, and I invite you to set a place for yourself and your family as we join in beloved community. First, a few announcements. The All Church Zoom meeting will be on Wednesday at 5:30. A reminder email will go out early Wednesday afternoon with a link. We'll hold a virtual coffee and conversation time after the service today for 30 minutes on Zoom. You will see the link in the comments below or in the newsletter. Next Sunday after the service and the coffee and conversation, we'll host a viewing of the Commission on Institutional Change report, which was presented at General Assembly. And follow the viewing, members who attended GA will lead a discussion on widening the circle of concern. We hope you'll join us, and information is in the newsletter. Welcome again.
Good morning, friends. It's good to be with you today, as always. I want to welcome my colleague and my friend, Reverend Lucas Hergert, to our virtual UCE pulpit today. He's here to offer his greetings from the North Shore Unitarian Church. Welcome, Lucas.
Unitarian Church of Evanston, good morning. It is such a pleasure to be with you. This is exciting. I've been looking forward to this pulpit exchange for some time. I'm good friends with Reverend Eileen and really grateful that she invited me to exchange pulpits today. My name is Lucas Hergert. I am the minister of the North Shore Unitarian Church just up the road in Deerfield, Illinois, and I am broadcasting this morning from our church's sanctuary. Now, normally when I do a pulpit exchange with a colleague, I get to be there in person and I get to hear your stories and what it is that you love about Unitarian Universalism and your church. And I just want to say I do regret that I'm not able to be in person with you this morning. But nonetheless, I have been looking forward to getting to share this hour with you, and I am so grateful for your hospitality. Thank you for having me today. Greetings. Today I'm going to light the chalice of the North Shore Unitarian Church in order to begin our service. And by way of some opening words, I offer these from Laurel Sheridan. Take from life its coals and not its ashes. Fan the flames of love and justice. Join hands and hearts in this common endeavor. And then, if we do that, there will be no limit to what we can accomplish together. My spiritual companions, welcome to this day in this place.
Roars and floors of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air. Father Canyon I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I could have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's clouds' illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way that you feel as every fairy tale seems real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave on laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. Fears and tears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds. I've looked at life that way, but now old friends are acting strange. They shake their heads. They say that I've changed, but something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at all.
Thank you for that beautiful performance, Henry. Alice Swan, Nick Wallen, and Rex and Enzo light the UCE chalice in Northern Illinois from our sanctuary on the traditional homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes, such as the Miami, Menominee, Ho-Chunk, Sac, and Fox, also called this area home. We name these in honor and respect. Please join in these chalice lighting words. Take from life its coals and not its ashes. Fan the flames of love and justice. Join hands and hearts in this common endeavor, and then, if we do that, there will be no limit to what we can accomplish together.
Please join in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Today's Time for All Ages is Marette on the High Wire by Emily Arnold McCulley. 100 years ago in Paris, when theaters and music halls drew traveling players from all over the world, the best place to stay was at the Widow Gatteau's, a boarding house on English Street. Acrobats, jugglers, actors, and mimes from as far away as Moscow and New York reclined on the widow's feather mattresses and devoured her kidney stews. Madame Gatteau worked hard to make her guests comfortable, and so did her daughter Marette, who was an expert at washing linens and mopping floors. She was a good listener too. Nothing pleased her more than to overhear the adventures of her guests. One evening, a tall, sad-faced stranger arrived. He told Madame Gatteau he was Bellini, a retired high-wire walker. "I have a room for you, but it's on the ground floor with no view." "Perfect," he said. The next afternoon, when Marette came for the sheets, there was the stranger, crossing the courtyard on air. Marette was enchanted. Her feet tingled, as if they wanted to jump up on the wire beside Bellini. "Excuse me, Monsieur Bellini, I want to learn to do that," she cried. Bellini sighed. "That would not be a good idea. Once you start, your feet are never happy again on the ground." "Oh, please teach me," Moret begged. "My feet are already unhappy on the ground." But he shook his head. Moret watched him every day. He would slide his feet onto the wire, cast his eyes ahead, and cross without ever looking down, as if in a trance. Finally, she couldn't resist any longer. When Bellini was gone, she jumped up on the high wire herself. Her arms flailed like windmills. In a moment, she was lying on her back on the ground. Bellini made it look easy. Surely she could do it too if she kept trying. In 10 tries, she balanced on one foot for a few seconds. In a day, she managed 3 steps without wavering. And finally, after a week of many, many falls, she walked the length of the wire. She couldn't wait to show Bellini. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, "In the beginning, everyone falls. Most give up, but you kept trying. Perhaps you have talent as well." So Bellini agreed to teach her. Next, she learned to run, to lie down, and to turn a somersault. "I will never fall again." "Do not boast," Bellini said so sharply that Moret lost her balance and had to jump down. One night, an agent rented a room. He noticed Bellini on his way to dinner. "What a shock to see him here," he exclaimed. "See who?" asked the mime. "Why, the great Bellini." "Bellini, the one who crossed Niagara Falls on a 1,000-foot wire in 10 minutes?" asked the mime. "And on the way back stopped in the middle to cook an omelet on the stove full of live coals. Then he opened a bottle of champagne and toasted the crowd." Bellini crossed the Alps with baskets tied to his feet. He fired a canyon over the bull ring in Barcelona, walked a flaming wire wearing a blindfold in Naples. The man had a nerve of iceberg, the agent said. Moret raced to Bellini's room. "Is it true you did those things? I want to do them too." "I can't take you," he said. "Well, why not?" "Because I'm afraid," he said. Moret was astonished. "Afraid? But why?" "Once you have fear on the wire, it never leaves." "You must make it leave," insisted Moret. Moret ran into the kitchen as tears sprang to her eyes. Bellini's fear was like a cloud casting its shadow on all she had learned from him. Bellini paced his room for hours. By dawn, he knew that if he didn't face his fear at last, he could not face Moret. He knew what he must do. That night, Bellini told the agent his plan. "I'll take care of it," he promised. So Bellini went out to find a length of hemp with a steel core. He worked until daylight, securing the wire. The next evening, Moret heard commotion in the street. The crowd was so thick she couldn't see at first that the agent was aiming a spotlight at the sky. "The return of the great Bellini," he was yelling. Could it be? Bellini stepped out onto the wire. He took a step and then he froze. The crowd cheered wildly, but something was wrong. Moret knew at once what it was. For a moment, she was as frozen as Bellini. Then she threw herself at the door behind her, ran inside, up flight after flight of stairs and out through a skylight onto the roof. She stretched her hands to Bellini. He smiled and began to walk toward her. She stepped onto the wire, and with the most intense pleasure, as she had always imagined it might be, she started to cross the sky. "Bravo, bravo!" roared the crowd. And so Bellini discovered that with the help of a friend, he could overcome his fear. And Maret discovered that she could find hope through challenge. The end.
Thank you for that story, Kathy, of courage through fear. These are the joys and the sorrows that have been submitted this morning through the Google form found on our homepage of our website. If you have trouble finding that form, know that you can always send me an email with your joys and sorrows that you'd like to have read in the service. This is from Dale Griffin. My mother, Audrey Griffin, passed away peacefully Thursday in the care of family members soon after her 92nd birthday and my last visit with her in Union, Maine. She was knitting, reading, and enjoying family until the last few days when her body decided to stop. Her family loves her and will carry on her legacy. I'm holding you in love, you and your family, Dale. Kristen Larson wrote that she's very happy to share that Craig is scheduled to return home on Wednesday, September 2nd. Over the next 2.5 weeks, while at Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, Craig will work on sitting and standing on his own. He will then have several weeks of in-home therapies, including physical, occupational, and speech before he returns to Shirley Ryan as an outpatient. Kristen will take her mandated 5 weeks of furlough from work to coincide with Craig's return home. Now for new prayers needed. Though Kristen does not have breast cancer, she will meet with a surgeon next Friday to discuss treatment of high-risk lesions found last week during her annual mammogram and a subsequent biopsy. So as to not end on a bummer note, Kristen writes, she wants us to know that she is practicing staying in the moment, and most always the moments are very good, full of gratitude and a weird sense of excitement for the yet to be revealed. Holding you in love, Kristen and Craig. And from Janet Lipner, she writes, I am sorry for the businesses that were looted for a second time downtown and in the near north. They were already suffering from the pandemic and the first looting. This will not help anyone's cause, it will just create misery. Holding all those who are suffering, all those who are in despair and experiencing violence of all kinds. Holding all of us in love. And I add my own sorrow and anger about the hateful threats the District 65 board and superintendent received in response to their plans to begin the school year centering the safety, well-being, and needs of all. The district's plan acknowledges the differing impacts and educational needs of those who are marginalized, those living with poverty or homelessness or individualized education plans, and yet the ugliness of systemic racism and white supremacy has revealed itself again. When the status quo is threatened, it reacts with venom and must be answered with the demands of love and justice. And we know that these are not the only joys and sorrows that are on our hearts. And so we take this moment of quiet now to read to ourselves the joys and sorrows that have been added to the chat. And we hold them with tenderness and care. And I invite you also to say aloud from your homes, wherever you are, the names of those who who you are holding in your heart, those who are sick or who have died, those who have experienced loss and grief and violence and fear. We let those names gather on the winds to be held in this beloved community that knows no walls. We hold these joys and sorrows, those spoken and unspoken, together. We expand our celebrations and we lessen the burden of our grief. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. I share with you this morning The Pulse of Life by Jennifer Johnson. These are anxious days, hair-pulling, hand-wringing days. We are bombarded from all sides with new and unprecedented developments. Grave threats to our national values and institutions on one hand, and countless calls to action on the other. And then the flood of critique and analysis. Whose strategy is winning? How do we outmaneuver the other side? These are indeed uncertain times. And yet there are some things we do know for certain. We know that our blue boat home continues to rotate on its axis, continues its familiar sojourn around the sun. The sun sets and rises, and if we remember to pause, we may lose ourselves, but for a moment, in the glorious play of light and color on the horizon. The pulse of life calls us to nourish our bodies with good food and movement, to nourish our spirits with art and song, friendship and tenderness and quiet. When we heed the pulse of life, we know what we need to do. To rise in the morning and rest into darkness, to put our hands, hearts, and minds to work, to meet those in our midst with compassion, to join with the vulnerable and speak truth to power, to play with our youngest and hear the wisdom of our elders, to heal the sick and wounded, to grieve the dying and remember the dead, to be of use, and sometimes to be still. The pulse of life is beating in each and every one of us. Amidst the clamor of these times, let us heed its sure and steady rhythm. May it be so.
Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
Our reading this morning comes from Philippe Petit. He was, of course, the famous tightrope walker who strung a wire between the World Trade Centers back in the early 70s and walked back and forth between them 8 times. These are some of his words. Life should be lived on the edge. You have to exercise rebellion, to refuse to tape yourself to rules, to refuse your own success, to refuse to repeat yourself, to see every day, every year, every idea as a true challenge. And then, and only then, are you going to live your life as though on a tightrope. So ends the reading.
UCE remains a vital part of the world and our community. And because we continue to need one another in the blessings of community, we take this time to invite you to give to our shared plate. Half of today's collection will be shared with My Block, My Hood, My City, and with Brian Stevenson's Equal Justice Initiative. You can read more about both of these organizations in the Show More section of the YouTube page. You can text to give, send in a check, or give from our website. If you send in a check, please indicate in the memo line if your check is for the shared offering, pledge, capital campaign, or some other giving. Please give as generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy. Thank you.
Classmates announced the school's recess by kicking a white ball to excited yelps and serious commands. A younger student in a polka-dotted skirt swings on a tire that moans every time it shifts left across from an older student sulking in black denim by a flagpole. Under a tree, raining down blooms of pink snow, my friend, who is all blonde bowl cut and delayed orthodontic work, shortens his step, reduces the width, sticks his arms out, tries to find a perfect straight line. He steps on this rusted black metal railing between cement posts, working it like a tightrope. He shifts and concentrates. He tries to find the plumb line down the center of his body, falling and landing on the cushion of his sneakers with a soft thud. And here I am, all Coke bottle glasses and awkward limbs, climbing onto the starting post. But before I even get one foot on the bar, a teacher catches my eye. She scribbles a forbidding look all over her face. Stop, not safe. I get down, deflated. Now, it will be several more months before my friend and I are able to test our mettle again. Humid Midwest Augusts have more festivals and fairs than they do mosquitoes. The Catholic parish near my home sets out its enormous sign announcing food, entertainment, and prizes. Its paint of primary colors has been reapplied so many times that the clown image on the sign possesses the creepy realism of caked-on makeup. I find little thrill in games of balloon darts for teddy bears disemboweled of their stuffing. That is not the festival that I plan to take my friend to. Instead, I see them setting it up. A few towns away, in the parking lot of a school, 2 towers rise. Their platforms are at least 3 stories in the air. This new monstrosity looms over the standard tilt-a-whirl and booths where families will slurp sweating snow cones. I thrill to see the workmen threading a steel serpent between the pillars and then affixing a bike with a huge weight that forces it to stay upright. Could this really be a ride? A ride where the object is not to fall in controlled roller coaster fashion, but rather to balance precariously? It's perfect for my 11-year-old imagination. That spring, I complete a report on Philippe Petit. He becomes an international inspiration when, in 1974, he rigs a cable between the World Trade Centers and saunters back and forth 8 times, playing to crowds below so distant that they look like dust. His walk is graceful and death-defying. As he approaches the South Tower, police officers rush to the ledge. They coax, plead, and threaten, but apparently neither promise nor threat have gravity at that altitude. My friend and I escape our parental chaperones into the crowd, swimming past booths through families to our destination. Competing calliope music spirals from the Ferris wheels and tilt-a-whirls. We pass a tent sporting languid goldfish and blue-tinted cups, sidling up to a garbage can wafting the remains of unswallowed beer. We find the entrance to the ride. An unwelcoming teenage vendor, all rail thin and facial piercings, holds a roll of tickets. Next to him is another sign that appears as inhospitable as he does. No riders under this height. There is absolutely no doubt that my friend and I are under that height. None. So in spontaneous synchronization, we try to act tall, imagining our spines extending periscopically. It's not convincing, but for some strange reason, some inscrutable reason, the boy smirks and gives us a ticket anyway. We cannot believe our luck. We stand triumphant. We have overcome the arbitrary constraints of adults. But behind a young woman in cutoff shorts, snorting at her date's treacherously bad jokes in the long, winding line, some small, soft part of me regrets this. A spot inside my chest is already turning to mush. Overhead, the oppressive friction of the bike against the steel cable drains my courage. One part of me wants nothing more than to leave my friend for the teddy bear games. In this carnival line inexplicably turned into a foxhole, I start to pray for adult intervention. I guess I'm used to adults chiding, commanding, chaperoning, corralling. Of course, I sometimes break away from their prison guard watch and climb too high into the neighborhood oak tree or jaywalk when they aren't looking. But usually, I expect them to rush in to curtail unreasonable aspirations and serious dangers. I am just starting to see the rim of a world whose chaos is untamed by parental sky gods, a world where I can choose heights at which they cannot help or assist, and where the ground can suddenly drop. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard defined faith this way. He said that faith is living with profound uncertainty, as though one were suspended over 70,000 fathoms of water. Now, that's not exactly a tightrope, but it is equally precarious. When we are confronted with such vulnerability and precarity, we are certainly warranted in feeling fearful and anxious. We might worry ourselves all day over what we will lose. Kierkegaard says that the only alternative is faith. We can find faith as trust. We can trust the next step on the wire, even as we know that we are risking danger. What does this mean to live a faithful response in this moment? I believe that we are being called as people of faith, as Unitarian Universalists, to risk deeper and sustained action around racism and white supremacy. We are being called to look at the ways insidious patterns and beliefs have seeped into our lives and shaped our culture. For white people, it is going to take leaning deeply into our discomfort around whiteness in ways that our parents may not have empowered us to do, and find a recognition that we have unacknowledged internal racism to work on. We have to do this if we are ever to challenge the brutality and the violence that we see in our world. My spiritual companions, I get it. This is scary stuff. It can feel a whole lot like the ground is dropping out from under us. These steps can feel uncomfortable and vulnerable. But I also know, I also believe, I also have a firm conviction that those steps are precisely the ones that are necessary. However risky it feels to me as a white person to engage in this work, I just remind myself that the drop is that much deadlier for a person of color. Failing to take the risk and instead choosing to stay with comfort and silence, choosing to look away from the conversation, choosing not to engage in all the hurt and pain that we see in our world, those don't even seem like options to me anymore. It just wouldn't be right. And so I'm ready. Stepping onto the slotted metallic platform, it's my turn. An indifferent operator in brown overalls straps me into a loosely fitted woven belt. Suspended 3 stories above the churning crowd, I clamp down on the handles. My knuckles turn pale. A kaleidoscope circles on my thick lenses. Squeals from games and arguments and laughter reach the platform like the distant prayers of supplicants, but they are millions of miles away. I am the one pushing forward, full of rebellion and conviction, discovering this strange, new, precarious footing. My spiritual companions, may you discover those next steps in grace. Amen, and blessings, and thank you so much for your hospitality this morning.
Thank you for that inspiring message, Reverend Hergert. As the Wallen Swan family extinguish the chalice, please join in saying these words. Though the flame is extinguished, we carry with us the warmth of community, the light of truth, and the fire of commitment until we are together again.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
My spiritual companions, by way of closing, I invite you to think about the question, what would it mean for you today to take a few steps out onto that tightrope? How might you find a few more steps out into faith? How might you carry your values more deeply into the world? How might you find some more steps towards love and towards hope and towards justice? The world needs that right now, It needs people who are willing to take the risk and take the walk. May we go forth and find that courage. Amen, and blessed be.